Outside of the Echo Chamber, the official I Dream of Indie Games podcast is brought to you by you, the gamer. If you'd like to join our mission to support indie visibility, head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming. Well, hello, Indie Warriors. Welcome back to what we strive to make the most entertaining and informative indie gaming show on the web. You are tuned into the official I Dream of Indie Games podcast. This is Outside of the Echo Chamber. I am your host, Ol Gamer Joe, and joining me today is the Chef's Kiss, Silent Signs, and Cheeky Chops himself, Barely Magic Mike. Our mission is to celebrate the incredible indie gaming scene, shining a light on its talented developers and publishers. We bring you daily reviews, first impressions, top 10 lists, the biggest sales, and of course, this very show, Outside of the Echo Chamber, all tied to the indie gaming and AA niche scene, as well as, once in a while, a few retro videos kicking around too. A huge thank you to all of you out there who support independent content like this. Please do consider heading over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames. You get Discord access, you get this show 3 days early ad-free shows on the channel itself, shout-outs every video, so much more. But everybody else can enjoy this show completely free. 3 days later, it's on Spotify, YouTube Music, and the YouTube channel itself in the podcast section, and we have a handy-dandy playlist at the bottom of our page, too. Okay, in this episode, we will dive into the latest indie gaming news. We're going to share our recent gameplay adventures as we do each week, present today's question of the day, and let you know what you can expect the week ahead here at the channel. This week, we discuss whether we think $80 to $90 game prices are justified.
You forgot to mention that we're just going to talk about a bunch of nonsense for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's usually how this show goes. So.
Yeah.
All right, fun weekend. We went to see Drop, which I believe before we were starting to record this, Barely Magic Mike also said he saw Drop, so we'll have some opinions on that. Would you call it a horror thriller? Not really horror so much.
Psychological.
More of a psychological thriller?
Psychological thriller, yeah.
I'll start with you, Mike. What did you think of Drop?
I really liked it, but I think I'm uniquely predisposed to like thrillers like that take place in sort of mostly one area. Like I love thriller like Phone Booth or Red Eye, or I love the idea of a movie that takes place mostly in one scene with all the like paranoia and like who's watching me, who should I look out for, like I don't know. I really dig that concept, and I think it did a great job of that without too many logical inconsistencies, in my opinion. It was a very fun time.
Yeah, I thought the movie was quite entertaining, though I do have to say I didn't really think about it too long after I had stopped watching it, if that makes sense. It didn't like really stick with me in a meaningful way, but I was entertained through the whole, like, what is it, like an hour and a half? Pretty quick moving movie, I'd say. A little bit implausible at times, but more interesting is the connection you have to this movie, Silent Signs, so do tell us.
So it's really not that interesting. I just went to high school with the actress.
That's right. A grade below you, right?
Yeah.
What's her name? Faye?
Megan Fahey.
Megan Fahey.
Yeah.
Megan Fahey, yeah. So cool little connection there. Must be weird to see someone you were in high school with on like a big screen like that.
It's pretty cool.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
Does she look like you remember and everything? Or?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been
many years,
15
right?
years,
Yeah.
but...
What were some of your interactions with her? Drama club together, I think you mentioned?
It just, yeah, I mean, I just remember her from, doing plays and stuff, so it's cool to see her be an actress now, IRL.
Yeah, wasn't she on another hit show, too? Or
White
on
Lotus,
And White
yeah.
Lotus, yeah.
Yep.
White Lotus, yeah. So she's made a good career for herself. Good for her.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
You can say you went to school with a movie star and no one will ever believe you, but I know you're telling the truth because you have a yearbook and stuff. So
Sure, I mean we could dig that out, but I don't think that's necessary. But yeah, I thought the movie was really fun. I will say that I don't know why the guy didn't just leave. Why did he not leave the restaurant? I would have been gone.
Yeah,
That
she
didn't
was
bother me
definitely
so
like,
much, but I get it. That didn't bother me as much, but I totally get it.
it felt like it was hurting me inside what that guy was
He
going
was
through.
just being so nice. And I'm like, I'm nice too. And I'm scared that I would end up trapped in a situation similar to that because I wouldn't be able to be so impolite to be like, actually, I gotta go.
That guy really, really liked the girl or desperately thought he was going to get laid that night or something and just was not willing to let it go.
Yeah.
Because he stuck around through like phone call after phone call, her looking at messages, her getting up.
She lied.
Makeup, she lied. There's all this stuff going on. Takes a shit at some point, probably. I don't know. There was a lot of her exiting and coming back, and it just got ridiculous at some point.
Anyway.
There's a fun twist to this movie, too, but we won't spoil that.
We won't fully spoil it, but
pretty good. I'm like a solid, like, a 7 on that movie, if I was using a number scale. I thought it was fine.
yeah, I thought it was really fun.
I'm going to say an 8. I really enjoyed it a lot. Silver genie lamp of approval for drop.
Silver Genie Lamp. Okay, fair enough. Good translation there, using the I Dream of Indie system. Never mind that numerical crap. Outside of that, we watched a little bit of Coachella. Mike, are you familiar with the Coachella concert that's going on? They have it live on YouTube.
Other than hearing about it and knowing people who have gone, I have no connection, no idea, no clue.
We're having our own little Coachella.
Yeah, so it's cool. You can actually be, well, at least feel like you're a participant of the show by watching it at home. I wish they did VR. Apparently they did it the previous year. They had a VR experience of sorts, because that would make total sense for a concert, right? But
yeah,
this year they
cool.
decided not to do it. Unfortunately, yeah, no VR this year, but we did watch Weezer. We saw a little bit of Jimmy Eat World, who I love. Joe, who's the guy from Stranger Things, right? What's his real name? I forget.
I almost said Steve Harrington. It's Joe Keery.
Joe Keery. Okay. He's got a cool little, like, I'd call him like a poppy rock band of sorts. They were pretty fun to watch. And this was my first time seeing Charlie, is it XCX?
It sure is.
Right? Seems like a pop queen of sorts. She
pretty-
was interesting.
Pretty iconic.
Solo on the stage. That was kind of odd. No band backing her or anything. Kind of just a lot of tracks and her singing along. It seemed like a big karaoke session, pretty much, which isn't usually my thing, but...
Crowd was eating it up.
Yeah, the crowd was absolutely loving it. Just goes to show, all of you artists out there, you're wasting your money with bands. You could just go out there and sing karaoke and everyone will love it. So it's pretty cool to watch a concert that way. I'm not a big festival person as far as going to them throughout history, Silent Signs. I find them very uncomfortable. The sets are short usually, so it's not the best of a band that you want to see. And they're expensive and dirty and smelly. And
I really enjoyed it from my couch with a glass of wine and some popcorn.
yes, probably the best way to enjoy a festival, because nothing about being at one sounds appealing to me. What do you think, Mike? Have you ever gone to any music festivals?
Yeah, I used to be one of those that went to like every Electric Zoo and Electric Daisy Carnival. Like I really loved my EDM stuff. And in retrospect, I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I went and was just like deeply dehydrated for 10 hours straight or something, and in this crowd of people, not able to like go to the bathroom or anything. Maybe I'm aging myself, but I'm like, holy crap, how did I ever do that? It was a good time though. Like you said, the sets are always pretty short and all that, but it's kind of nice to be able to just go see exactly who you want to see when you want to see them, and just have all these different options, new artists to discover, stuff like that. I've definitely outgrown it, but it was fun while it lasted.
I feel like my tolerance would be higher if I were still young, probably too.
Yeah, we're old now.
I'm not really doing party drugs or drinking or any of that stuff like I used to back in the day. And my back is shot at concerts. I can barely make it through like a regular concert these days without like being in desperate pain.
Oh yeah, were you not going to mention we went to a concert this week?
We did, yes.
Midweek, no less.
Yes, we saw the Mars Volta with Deftones, which was a lot of fun. Out there in good old Boston, which we'll be returning to, tie it into this. Yes, this is an indie gaming podcast.
The glorious TD Garden.
PAX East, though, pretty close by, within proximity of the TD Garden. So, yes, PAX coverage coming your way. 3 weeks we were just talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty damn soon. We've already booked a few appointments. And, another PAX. This is your second, Mike, I believe. But it's like me and Silent Side, our fourth or fifth, right?
Oh, wow.
Maybe 6, yeah. Well, we've had a channel for 6 years in October. We've gone to 5 of the PAXs, I think. So
for the channel, you mean? Then yeah.
Yeah. We did actually go as just attendees years and years before that. I forget about that. But anyways, yeah, that was kind of our weekend. We got some pickle lemonade for our daughter at the Popeyes. She's obsessed with pickles. I think I've mentioned that on this show before. Some of you have commented to me in the Discord about some of your favorite pickle recommendations for her, so we appreciate that. But she had to get this Popeye's pickle lemonade that someone posted. I think it was Indie Greg in the Discord posted about this. And she absolutely loved it. She said like it's a perfect mix of sweet lemonade and pickly flavor. It sounds so bad to me, but you know,
sounds
kids
so
will
bad.
be kids. Yeah, yeah. There's another thing on their menu too, right? With
There's pickle chips,
pickle
and then there's
chips.
some sort of pickle glaze situation
which is
going on.
essentially a deep fried pickle. Is my
I don't know.
understanding?
I've never eaten at Popeyes. Maybe that's bad to admit, but I've never consumed Popeyes.
You don't love that chicken at Popeyes?
I don't know. Maybe I do, but I've never tried it.
Yeah, no, I've actually had it once, and I was on a road trip, and it was kind of a desperate call. I was in Louisiana, believe it or not, and they have a Louisiana kitchen version of Popeyes.
Well, that makes sense.
And I got the shrimp, the deep fried shrimp, and it was really good outside of the stomachache that accompanied it like an hour later. But
Naturally.
Mike, ever have Popeyes?
Like one time. It was fine. I don't know. It's food like that. It always tastes good, and then afterwards, I just feel like it's like the grease is running through my veins. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's
I
kind of
mean,
where I'm at with fast foods too. It's like never worth it. I'm so ill afterwards.
Yeah, and sometimes it just tastes so fake. Some of it too. I don't know. All the preservatives and everything. It gets to me.
It's hard to describe what fake tastes like unless you taste fake. I wonder if other countries like don't deal with all this weird processed tasting stuff.
Well, I did eat KFC in India, and
What was that like? Did it
was
taste like real food?
delicious.
It was good. I've
Yeah.
heard that. Like, are they just not using all the preservatives we do in America? Do they have actual fresh chicken?
Well, they actually use like spices.
Oh yeah. Well, I know India is all about the spices. I will eat Indian food maybe once every 2 months, and I'm good with it. I really enjoy it when I have it, but the spices are a bit much for me.
Oh, I love Indian food.
Could you eat it regularly
Me
though?
too.
Yeah.
Like I'm a once in a blue moon type with Indian food. I like it, but it is a lot. It's a lot of spice.
I like having options, but I could sure eat some right now.
What would you both recommend me? Because I don't eat a lot of Indian food. What's like one of the finer dishes that's kind of gonna be easy to get into, accessible for a dude with a limited palate like me?
Butter chicken.
Butter chicken. I've had that. That's good.
If you want something that's really good, but maybe not quite as like heavy in the fatty sense, like just because those sauces have so much like butter and cream and everything, like if you want to feel better afterward, like a chicken biryani you could do, which
Okay, that
is
sounds
kind of
good.
you know, I mean, chicken and rice in a sense, but with veggies and a lot more seasoning. If you get a good chicken biryani, it is far more than just chicken and rice. It is like one of the most beautifully seasoned dishes I've ever had. Yeah, I'm a chicken tikka masala bitch myself sometimes, but only when I'm ready to feel
Aren't
kind
we
of
all?
crappy after.
Well, you know, we are going to vacation out in New Hampshire, Silent Signs. Maybe we should find an Indian place out there, though I don't think that's the place I think of when I think of Indian
If
food.
I'm traveling to New Hampshire, I'm not thinking about eating any sort of ethnic food.
Surprisingly, though, we've had really good Thai food in New Hampshire, you might recall. There's a restaurant out there that you absolutely love, so
That was true.
just goes to show. New England has, like, some surprisingly good ethnic
Oh.
restaurants.
Not at all ethnic. Well, I don't think so. But we went to a restaurant in New Hampshire one time that was, I guess, more like tapas almost, like
Yeah.
apps. And
Like served piecemeal, right?
yeah, and they sat us at a piano, like we ate off of the top of the piano. That was cool.
First and last time I've ever eaten on a piano.
Yep.
All right, let's get into what we've been playing. That's enough out of us in that department. We can actually talk about these because I'm going to post this for our Patreon members just after both of these videos go live, so it works out perfectly. I've been playing the Lunar Remastered Collection. Our review should be live for everybody that's listening to this right now. This is, of course, a collection of two classic JRPGs, Lunar the Silver Star Story and Lunar Eternal Blue. You might remember that this franchise first was around in 1992, Sega CD, and then it got a really impressive update in the later 90s for the Sega Saturn. A lot of people forget that version. It did exist in 1996. I kind of know this stuff because I just did the history of this game. And then in 1990, I think it was 7 or 8, the PlayStation 1 version, the one that probably a lot of you are familiar with, came out. Beautiful box. It's still under my TV to this day. Silent Signs can vouch for that.
Yep.
You saw my Eternal Blue box. Beautiful packaging. It included a lot of fun goodies, soundtracks. They updated the graphics to the games. It was really one of the great remakes of its time. So this Lunar Remastered Collection is essentially those games again, but they're putting them into a widescreen format. A couple bells and whistles here or there. It's all in that review for you to learn about. But I will say, not a lot of reverence paid towards the history of this franchise and this collection, Silent Signs. So you don't really get any interviews, you don't get any galleries, you don't get any... For a series with such a rich history, I was super disappointed.
So what I'm hearing is you wanted them to give it the Croc treatment, and they did not.
Yes, and I think especially, there's a cool history behind Croc I didn't even realize until I played that game. So it was fun to learn about, and you don't get that here at all. You get a menu that says, play the widescreen edition of the game, or the enhanced, I think they call it the enhanced version of the game, or play the old school 4x3 version of the game, and that's pretty much it. There is no celebration of Lunar whatsoever. Now, there's some other tweaks, too. They've upgraded I guess you could call them upgraded, the animated cutscenes, but it really... Have you ever seen an image run through one of those AI upscalers where it kind of just smooths everything out? That kind of looks like what they've done to the videos in these versions of Lunar. They kind of just ran them through an upscaler and called it a day. They're cleaner, but in that process, you kind of lose some of the grit and charm of those old cutscenes. Thankfully, if you play the classic versions, you can still get them in all their 4x3 boxed glory. But at the end of the day, it's those games again, and I think there's really nothing I can say to stop people from wanting to buy those games again. And, at $50, you're getting two great RPGs, even though I feel like they didn't give the best effort to these. At least the translation's there still intact and that kind of thing.
It's a lot of hours of content.
It is. It's probably a good 60 to 70 hours of content. They're classic games. Hard to argue with, but yeah, as a game history buff, I was a little disappointed they didn't go into that stuff a little bit more. That's my rant about Lunar Remastered Collection. Obviously, with two big RPGs that I have to work my way through, that's pretty much what took up my last, 10 to 12 days. So, Silent Signs, that's enough out of me. What did you play?
Can I talk about it?
Yeah, we're good. We're clear.
Oh,
I'm going to post
sweet.
this after the video's live. So.
I've been playing Crash Bandicoot. Nico Dorico.
I'm totally going to use that for the title.
To those unfamiliar, it is a platformer featuring a soundtrack by none other than David Wise.
So good.
My favorite video game composer of all time. Did the Donkey Kong Country soundtracks. If you didn't know that, now you know.
More recently, Gimmick 2.
More recently, Gimmick 2, but Donkey Kong Country more important.
And Nico Dorico, maybe even more important.
And Nico Dorico. It's been pretty fun. I gotta say, I was very impressed with the game's
we should mention this director's
platforming.
cut, too.
Yes. So they have kind of the, chase scenes of Crash Bandicoot, and then you've got, the tires you can bounce on, like Donkey Kong Country. They really try and combine a lot of things. There's kind of elements of Rayman in there with, the collectibles and... I don't know. They tried to do a lot of things, and they did them pretty effectively well. I just can't get past the look of the characters. They they look like furries, and that's fine if you're into that, but it was throwing me for a loop. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
And they try to tell a story with these characters,
They
too,
did,
and it's not very interesting.
That's
interesting.
about it.
I mean, you're not in these games for the story,
No.
usually, but I have to say, Silent Signs, I was really impressed how the game does transition from that 2D viewpoint right into the behind-the-butt Crash Bandicoot view. So cool. I thought this game was really, really fun.
It is really fun.
A pretty quick play if you want to just get through it, but there's a lot of collectibles, too. Could probably get up to 10 to 12 hours.
And they did add some content in the director's cut as well, so we'll get into that more in the review, but... Very fun if you're a platforming fan.
I agree. Ran beautifully, too, on our 4070 rig. I know that's a little bit of a flex. It's a more powerful machine, but we were running it even at 4K, 120 FPS, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it looked jaw-dropping, I have to say.
Pretty snazzy.
Bright, colorful. Boss battles in this game, too. Now, boss battles can be a bit of a nuisance in certain games.
Yeah.
But they're easy and fun in this game. I really like them.
Especially if there's a co-op feature, which is great.
Yes. Well, it's good. I wouldn't say great.
No, it's great that there is a co-op feature.
Yes.
Always love that. It does make the bosses a lot easier because you can basically, if one of the characters die, you come back in a little bubble. You can pop it, and bring them back. And that really takes all of the challenge out of a boss battle, let me tell you.
It does take the challenge out of the game a bit, but also it suffers from that problem of one player can be left behind a lot as you're scrolling forward because they don't use a tag feature like they did in Donkey Kong Country. It's actually both players are moving at the same time, which...
But you can drop the other player at any time.
You can, yeah. So it works effectively enough. It's not perfect, but it's never going to be in a game like that. I am curious why they didn't go with the classic tag feature, though. I feel like that might have been easier, but you do have hit points in this game, too, like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Versus Donkey Kong, it's...
There's different difficulties.
Oh, we should mention, too, you ride animals. Or
Yes.
creatures.
Yeah, they really tried all the things.
Yeah, they really did. There's bonus rounds. It's all there. So if you are a fan of classic Donkey Kong Country and all of that good retro goodness, I definitely recommend checking this game out. Overall, you enjoyed it then?
Yes.
Good. Very good. Mike, on to you. You can check out both of those reviews now.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I can't wait to play Nico Derico. If that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, it looks
It's
really
Dorico
cool.
to you.
Is it?
Dorico.
I don't know. I think I would assume they rhyme. Nico Dorico.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Okay, Nico Dorico. Yeah, I have a friend visiting me next weekend, and we've been holding off on playing Split Fiction until he visits, so we're kind of focused on that, but this is probably what we would play right after.
I'm intrigued
Yeah,
by that.
yeah.
Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, definitely. We're very excited for that. What have I been playing? Aside from review stuff that I can't talk about yet, not a whole lot, but it's probably worth talking about Blueprints a little bit. I feel like there's been a lot of conversation about that one this week, and what I find kind of interesting about it is that it's one of those games, and there are a bunch of these, but it's one of those games where the audience reviews and the critic reviews are not going to be quite in sync. And I think I line up a little bit more with the audience in my review. I gave it a Silver Genie Lamp of Approval. I think it's a great game. But when you see a 93 on Metacritic, it's being called the best reviewed game of the year so far. And I kind of want to clarify for people listening that this is a game that is for a specific type of person. I can understand why it's reviewed so well. I would say I'm somewhat that specific type of person, but there were still elements of the game that frustrated me. The entire game is just this massive puzzle with so many elements, just like an onion, so many layers to peel back. And I mean, if you really like exploration and discovery and you're patient, you will find an immense amount of value in Blueprints. But there were situations that I found pretty frustrating at times during my playthrough. Basically, when you have one item or a couple items that kind of you need a specific room to use them, but you're at the mercy of the game's random generation to be able to find that room. And you might end 1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs, knowing what you have to do, but just not having the luck to get it accomplished. That kind of thing can be really frustrating. So there is definitely an element of patience in it. But I thought it was a really cool game. I just think that the fact that it has a 93 on Metacritic and only 77% positive on Steam at the moment is kind of more to that disconnect between critics and the audience, where it's like, this game really is great, but it's not for everyone. Kind of have to consider your own tolerance for things like random generation. But
I think you nailed that point really well in your review. You mentioned that, this game is for a very specific type of person. And maybe that's something, people look at a 93 and they're like, oh, it's a must play. I got to play it. But they could potentially be disappointed if they don't read into it further and realize just what they're playing.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. People are bouncing off of it, just being like, I can't believe how much this random generation screws with my ability to solve these puzzles. And it's like, yeah, I wish the big critics would have covered that a little more thoroughly, even if they loved the game. But they, that's what happens in the echo chamber. We've warned you of the dangers.
And maybe some of them did, to be fair. I don't know. I didn't read any of them. But a lot of people, again, they see that number and they just say, oh, a classic. Okay, I'll go play it now.
Yeah, that's the danger of review scores, isn't it? Without that broader context, you can't really fully understand whether a game is for you or not just by that number on it.
Silent Signs, does this game seem like something for you? You've seen a lot of Blueprints, right?
Yeah, I think it'll scratch that Lorelei itch for me a bit. I'm definitely hoping to play it when I have some time.
I was going to say, this game seems to be getting all of the praise that I wish Lorelei had gotten. That game kind of, I don't want to say flew under the radar entirely, but I just feel like it never quite got the recognition I feel like how great that game was. And Blueprints seems to be getting more of that. Now, I haven't played Blueprints enough to compare them directly, but I know Lorelei was an amazing, obscure puzzle game, kind of in that style.
Yeah, I loved that game so much. I also really... It's meant to be a pun. The titles of this game is meant to be a pun, right?
I think so.
Blueprints?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
I love that.
Yeah. It's clever. It's very clever. And so much about the game is incredibly clever. There were so many times I was just writing down notes about something and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe how these things fit together. I mean, it's brilliantly constructed. I just think it is like fun to play about 2/3 to 3/4 of the time, and the other time you're just like, ugh, I'm drafting this room again. Like, come on.
Any other fun, exciting adventures for you this week outside of Blueprints?
Yeah, a few little ones. I've continued to play Haste. I think it is one of my favorite games of the year, and certainly my favorite soundtrack of the year so far. I love the soundtrack to Haste.
Oh yes, you sent me a couple samples. That was bumping.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I tried a little bit of a couple games in my backlog. Actually, no, this isn't in my backlog. This kind of just came out. A precision platformer called Ninja Ming. I forget if you covered it in upcoming indies, but it's a retro pixel art precision platformer where you can kind of teleport between different I'm not doing a good job of describing it, but it was fun. I haven't played a whole lot of it. And then I played a little bit of Have a Nice Death. I think that's a little bit more popular, but have you guys heard of that one?
It sounds familiar.
No, it reminds me of that movie, though, Happy Death Day, was it? Which they're making a third one off topic.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, take a look at Have a Nice Death. It is a beautifully animated game. The animation is incredible. It's very silly. You play as Death, and you're very overworked in the corporate structure of death. Like it's a very sort of silly, critique of capitalism, I guess, but where you play as the Grim Reaper. And it's a roguelike. It's got some platforming and some combat. I guess sort of Dead Cells-like, if anything, if I were to compare it to anything. Maybe a little more simple on the combat side, but so beautifully animated. I definitely want to play a lot more of this one. But it has like 9,000 reviews on Steam, so it was a pretty popular one when it came out in 2023.
Your description there reminds me a little bit of Death and Taxes. Remember that game?
Oh yeah, I never played that, but it looked cool.
All right then, with that, let's get into some indie gaming news. There's going to be a lot of reviews on the channel this week, so tons of content for you to watch once this is live. Let's talk a little bit about Rusty Rabbit. So, interesting looking title here, to say the least, coming from NetEase. Kind of a combination of having this rich story, some Metroidvania elements, and a bit of mining thrown in there with a sprinkle of RPG. This is from the Steam page. This will hopefully paint a better picture for you listeners out there. Humankind abandoned Earth as it entered another ice age. Over time, those who came to hold dominion over the world were rabbits. Stamp, a cute rabbit with an old soul, pilots his trusty mech Junkster through the giant ruins of a frozen world in this side-scrolling action-adventure title. Well, it certainly looks cute. Those mining elements, odd combination of gameplay styles here. Any interest from either of you in Rusty Rabbits? I'll start with Silent Signs.
I mean, I think it looks cute. I always loved games that had that cute aesthetic, but were a little bit raunchy, dirty, like mature. Where there's the mismatch of the style versus the content. So I think that's fun.
A little bit of that like Gex style humor.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Yep. Mike, any interest in this one?
So, to be clear, this is not a Metroidvania. I thought it was, but it doesn't look like it.
Elements of Metroidvania, that style of map, but a lot of mining going on here. Not so much about the exploration element as it is about mining for experience, from what I can gather.
Interesting. So I'm looking at it, I'm watching the trailer, and it looks very platformy. And in that sense, it looks really fun, and it does totally look cute. I would say I am kind of interested. I'd be very curious to give it a try. And honestly, a platformer with a grappling hook is a lot of times all you need to get my attention, which is sad, but that's so true. I just love I love platforming with fun movement.
Well, Rusty Rabbit is going to be available just a few days, pretty close to this podcast, probably the 17th of April. I can't math out when this comes out right now, but let's see. 14th is Monday, so yeah, I think right along with this podcast.
Wow.
Rusty Rabbit. The big Triple I Initiative Indie Showcase took place. A lot of announcements. I think there was over 40 games in total featured. We won't go over them all here, but one of the more surprising stories, old game from 2019 suddenly getting a free DLC update. We've seen this a few times in the indie scene where Castle Crashers, for example, gets DLC packs years after release. Well, Katana Zero getting a free DLC update. Did either of you play Katana Zero?
Yes. I adored Katana Zero. And actually, this announcement isn't quite new, but it is interesting. Ever since Katana Zero came out, the developer was saying there was a free DLC pack coming. And everybody just has, on the Steam forums, has kind of just assumed it's never coming out because it's been so long.
This will be 6 years.
And yeah, I mean, there were a couple updates on his Twitter, X, whatever the fuck you want to call it, to be fair, but there was a lot of suspicion that this is, the developer overshot their ambitions and it just wasn't really happening. But the fact that it's still happening and that it's still free, I mean, major props to this developer. That is so cool. I mean, at this point, I'm going to have to replay the base game, which is fine. That it's like a 4-hour game and it's fantastic. It's very, very Hotline Miami-like, and it has I'm going to call it the most beautiful pixel art I've ever seen. I'm going to give it that distinction right now. So, Joe, you would be all over it.
I was going to say, this ties in, right? Because I believe that's the pixel artist that did Look Outside recently.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. He did Katana Zero. But I've never played this game, much to my shame. Yeah, I really do want to check it out. Now I have an excuse. It's not often you get a real reason to go back to a game from 2019 that's going to get content in a free DLC like this. So super excited to try it. Knowing that it's 4 hours, not a big commitment. So maybe I'll even be talking about Katana Zero next week on this show. We'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah, you will love it. I can guarantee. I would bet money you would love it.
Another game on the big list for Triple I Initiative was the first-person shooter Voidbreaker. Mike, you mentioned you were pretty excited. I'm not Mr. FPS too much these days. I enjoy them here or there. There were two, actually. Voidbreaker and Frost Trail. Were you interested in either of those showings?
Yeah, I thought Voidbreaker looks really cool. The destructible environments and everything looks pretty neat. Kind of have to look at some footage again to remind myself about how it looks like. But Frost Trail, I don't know anything about that one, really. I looked very briefly, and it looked okay. No offense to the developers at all here, but when I hear about a game launching not even this year, next year, and it's going to launch into early access, and it's like a survival crafting sort of thing, you have completely lost my interest until it's closer to
right? Yeah.
An actual full release, and there's some impressions of it and stuff. It's just there's too much awesome stuff to care about. Voidbreaker looks like it has incredibly fun movement, sliding around, sort of like bullet hell Returnal style a little bit. Lots to like in that one. Very excited for it.
This is another one I know you've been excited about, The Alters. This is getting a June 13th release date. We knew of the game, but we didn't have a concrete date for it. Coming from one of your favorites, 11-Bit Studios, what has you excited about The Alters?
I think The Alters is one of the most original concepts I've ever seen for a video game, and if they can pull it off, it will be one of the best games of 2025. I think can they pull it off question is a really important one because, 11-Bit as developers, they are incredible. I mean, Frostpunk is one of my favorite games of all time. Frostpunk 2, less so, but I still really enjoyed it. The idea with The Alters is that you are on this sort of giant wheel of a ship that can... It can just kind of roll from one part of this planet to the other. I guess you're stranded on this planet, and you're there by yourself, but you have this machine that can take alternate versions of yourself, the alters, and pull them from timelines in which you had made different decisions about your life. Like you can pull a scientist version of yourself from a version of your life in which you decided to study physics or something. And
this is some Hideo Kojima type stuff going on here.
Yeah, it's some really really intense ideas, like very interesting sci-fi concepts. So the idea is it's part like sort of survival resource management. You go out and onto the planet and scavenge for different resources, and then you can create these alters of yourself to do different jobs around the ship. And I guess I don't know a whole lot more than that because I'm trying not to spoil anything for myself. But if they can make that concept work, this like survival resource management with I guess, what am I trying to say? Like ship management, like managing these different characters, life sim a little bit, I guess. If they can make all that work, it's going to be incredible. Can't wait for it.
Seems ambitious, and you won't have to wait long. June 13th. This was actually the most exciting announcement. Strangely, I would not expect this genre to be something that I'm anticipating, but it is Neverway. And Neverway is kind of a farming life sim RPG. Not usually my thing, as much as I love RPGs, but they're putting a unique spin on this game. It is very dark. It has a horror theme to it. There's like this nightmare setting going on. Did either of you check out the trailer for Neverway?
I'm looking at it right now. I like the like kind of Game Boy looking color palettes.
It's really, really cool looking, despite the fact that I don't usually like, growing crops in games and all that kind of stuff. This really seems to kind of twist the genre in a way that has me excited. Did you see this, Mike?
Yeah, I'm looking at the trailer now too. I think the pixel art looks really cool.
Celeste, the artist from Celeste, it looks like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the color palette's really neat. I definitely have skepticism around anything that's a farming sim, but there have been exceptions I've loved. I mean, Wanderstop I've really, really enjoyed, and that was kind of a farming sim in a way, in sort of a gentle way. But yeah, I'll definitely keep my eye out on this one, even if I'm not certain I would like it.
I do like things that are not just a farming sim. Like if it's strictly farming sim, I'm out. But if it tries something new or like tries to fuse that type of gameplay with something innovative, then I'm at least willing to give it a go.
Are you into speedrunning Silent Signs?
In real life?
Sure.
No.
Well, Speedrunners 2 was announced, and I must admit, I didn't know there was a Speedrunners 1. Did either of you?
Yes,
No.
I've tried it. It was all right. It was pretty fun.
It was all right. Okay, cool. The sequel looks kind of fun. More speedrunning, as the title
is it a
implies.
racing game?
Yeah, like on foot.
Do I need to look this up?
Yeah, it's sort of like 2D on foot Mario Kart.
Okay.
That sounds
Sort
all
of.
right?
All right.
Sort of, yeah. I tried it with my friends. I thought it was pretty fun. I think the skill level required was not as casual as they were hoping for, so it didn't really gain any traction in my friend group. But I think with groups of actual gamer friends who play platformers a decent amount, I've heard very good things from some people. So I just never found the crowd to play it with. That kind of matters a lot with a game like this.
It does look like it has up to 4 players, which is always welcome locally, I'm assuming. So it looks all right.
Oh, they've got your grappling hooks in there.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep, that they do. It looks pretty fun. I would definitely give it a go.
There was a 3D action platformer revealed that's got a lot of people talking. You might want to look this one up too, Silent Signs. It's called Dusk Fade. Did you get a chance to check out this trailer, Mike? It actually looks quite fun.
Yeah, I looked very briefly at a few snippets of gameplay, and there's a grappling hook again.
That's the theme of this episode, I guess.
I know, seriously. It looks really fun. I think they announced 2026, so my eyes just kind of glazed over when I saw that, because, again, so much stuff still coming out in 2025 that I care about nothing coming out in 2026 right now, but it's on my wish list. I mean, there's no way I can ignore a 3D platformer that looks this cool.
And then last on our list, well, there were a lot more, so watch the whole video if you want to see all 40-plus games, but the one I want to mention, Clover Pit, because we know you folks out there love your gambling-style roguelites, if Balatro was any indication of that.
Yep.
Clover Pit is a roguelite slot machine game. Now, we talked a few episodes back about how we're not big on gambling in real life, and it's an unsatisfying way to quickly lose your money, but gambling in video games, a little less risk involved.
I feel like it's like a gateway drug.
This, again, kind of has a dark vibe to it, too, that I'm kind of into. I'll definitely check this out. Any interest from either of you?
Yeah, if I were to summarize my impressions on the trailer, it looks like slot gun roulette.
There you go.
It looks, which that's not a bad thing. These games live or die by how good the design is. And And I will say I'm trying not to discern the quality of a game that's not out yet based on its publisher, but the fact that Future Friends is publishing this gives me some it's an extra good sign for me. I love most of what I played from them.
Good publisher, yeah. Good folks over there at Future Friends. We'll have to see if Clover Pit is as addicting as some of its predecessors, like Balatro.
Yeah, it looks interesting enough.
Yeah, I like slots. I just don't want to spend real money on them, so I'm kind of into this idea. All right, let's get into our debate for the week. What do you say? A brisker moving episode today.
Yeah.
Last week we talked a long time, but shout out to everybody. That was our most listened to / watched episode of the show so far. So
well,
congratulations,
you
team.
know, kind of a big deal going on last
with
week
the whole
there.
Switch 2 debate and everything. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. It stayed civil. We'll have all of your comments coming up after today's debate. Kind of going off that topic a little bit further here. We talked last week about how Nintendo is pushing the limits with $80 to potentially $90 games. That seems to be on a lot of people's minds. I want to know from both of you, $80 to $90 games. Are you going to throw that down on the table? Are you going to pay it flat out? Day one release. You're going to go on Amazon. You're going to hit add to my cart. You're going to cash out for potentially $90 and buy a new game. Or would you rather just get 10 to 12 indies for that price? You know my answer, but Silent Signs, let's start with you. What do you think about this potential new, well, 80 is definitely guaranteed, but up to 90. What are you willing to pay for a new game?
It's bold of you to assume I've ever even spent 60 to 70 on a game.
I was going to say, I've never even paid the 70 yet.
I'm usually the type of person that waits for a good bit of time for things to go on sale before I purchase them.
Now, you're in a bit of a pickle here, though, because we know Nintendo does not like to drop prices. So how do you feel about that? Do you not play those games at that point, then?
I, in general, have just purchased less Nintendo games over the year. I really have just really been interested in, like, the flagship titles. Like, you know, you get your Mario Kart. If there's a new Mario platformer, maybe that one. And that's about all I would actually buy from Nintendo themselves. I'm not even a Mario Party fan. I'm sorry, I know. I'm just not.
I enjoy the occasional Mario Party, but
That's fine.
You know, it's not for everyone.
But, like, I don't know. This won't really impact me in such a great way because realistically, if I'm only really buying those 2 to 3 titles from Nintendo anyway, I'm going to be spending, $30 more that I would have spent? It's not that big of a deal for me. That said, all these people complaining, I do believe there's a lot of people out there that are still going to pay that price of admission.
That's the scary part about it. Yeah, I think a lot of people
is it scary or is it just like...
I'm a little concerned that other companies see that.
Of course they will.
And they'll say, okay, we'll get it too.
Well, yeah, that's how this works. That's how the market works.
Yeah, I don't like what Nintendo is doing here at all. But also, after our conversation last week, it kind of got me thinking, like you were just touching on, how much of their stuff do I even play at this point? And the answer is very little, to the point where I'm questioning whether I even I definitely am not going to get a Switch 2 at launch at this point, but I'm wondering if I ever get one and if my life just goes on and I'm fine without playing those handful of games.
You're acting like that's different, though. Like you didn't buy a PlayStation 5 at launch. In fact, you ended up buying a PlayStation 5, 3 years later and then selling it because you didn't really use it?
You don't even end up using it. So I'm kind of trying to learn my lessons here. And I'm like, you know what? I can't even play close to what I have.
Let's just call a spade and say that you're not really a console guy anymore. And that's fine. It's okay.
I think that is okay.
Yeah.
It's just overwhelming the amount of games that I have. And realistically, now my life's different from some people. I review games for part of my living and I have to kind of play what's coming towards me. I don't really get a lot of leisure time for games like a lot of people do. So let's hear where you stand on this, Mike. Are you going to pay the $80? You're going to shell out the $90 for the new Super Mario?
It's a me.
You know, I already said a lot about this last week in terms of how I feel about Nintendo charging $80 and $90 prices when Mario Kart on Switch made billions of dollars, literally. So I'm not going to go into the whole, capitalistic greed element of this, but I think that publishers need to be extremely careful about how they use this information of what Nintendo is charging for these games, because publishers, in my opinion, are already pretty bad at pricing their games. We see a lot of games fail to meet sales expectations in the AAA space, some failing catastrophically. to do so. And the idea that prices should go up is a little insane when so many games are already struggling pretty hard to even recoup their development costs. So I feel like we're entering an era not of $80 to $90 prices being the standard, at least if publishers know what's good for them. I think that, Nintendo for Mario Kart, for the next Mario 3D platformer, and for the next big Zelda game, they will absolutely be charging those $80 and $90 price points, no doubt, because they will sell like crazy no matter what. But I think even Nintendo is not dumb enough to charge that for everything. I mean, Donkey Kong is going for $70. That seems like a lot even for that, but they clearly know that one does not have as much power over their audience as established franchises like Mario Kart do. But
see, I think that creates another problem. I think sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that creates another problem because, well, then are you saying, well, our game is of more worth than your game, so you folks that made Donkey Kong, your game's only worth $70, but our Mario Kart, it's worth $80. I don't really like that attitude either, but go ahead.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's less about the quality of the game and more about how much they think it's more about what they think they can get away with. They know they can get away with $90 for Mario Kart, but not $90 for Donkey Kong. And I think they're right. I think it has nothing to do with the quality of the games. I think they're really right in that regard. I think Take-Two is absolutely going to take a cue from that. And there's no way GTA 6 is launching at $70. No way. I bet it's going to be 80 or 90. They could even get away with 100 probably. But they would probably stick with 90 because as soon as you get into triple digits, then I feel like there's sort of a mental block for some consumers on a number like that. But yeah, I really hope publishers continue to look at their games and the value they bring and how much of an audience they can bring in before choosing to charge those sort of prices for them, because they're just going to be shooting themselves in the foot. If Ubisoft starts charging $90 for Assassin's Creed, everybody's going to wait until it's 20 or 30. I mean, not literally everybody, but a lot of people will. And then that company will fail even faster. You know what I mean?
It's a good point you made, too. They're struggling to sell that series at $70, so they're going to absolutely struggle to sell it at 80 to 90. But you wanted to add something, Silent Sons?
I mean, are we really surprised that the cost of games are going up, though? I mean, the cost of everything has gone up. We were just talking about this with ticket prices yesterday. When it comes to concerts or movies, think about how much more you're paying now than you were 5-10 years ago. They're trying to keep up with the times, but maybe this was just an ill-timed price hike.
I think so, yeah. A time where people, aren't necessarily in the best financial position.
I almost feel like they could have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it would have sat better with consumers than it does now.
Especially so fresh off of the $70 hike.
Yeah.
Which seems like an increase, and people don't like any kind of increase. So what was the 70 implemented? Is that only like a year and a half to 2 years ago at this point?
I thought that was with the launch of the PS5, no?
I don't remember
exactly.
Yeah,
like 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
2020
so it's been around
is
for a
when we
while.
started seeing them.
All right, so it's been 5 years, but think of how long we went with $50, $60 games.
But
decades.
I mean, at the end of the day, in real life, I work in insurance, right? And guess what? Everybody's insurance went up the last 2-3 years, and it went up a lot. And at the end of the day, people are still buying new cars and paying for that insurance for those cars not because they needed it, because they wanted it.
Yeah, that's true. Insurance is more of a need than a want, I would say.
Yeah, but you
don't need a fancy car either.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it anyway.
So, yeah, just to go around real quick, because the question was, for you all specifically, will you pay $80 to $90 for games? Silent Signs?
I never did, so no.
And Mike?
It's going to depend. I potentially would for a couple of games if I really, really care about them, but mostly I would wait.
Yeah.
All right. Always a fun debate here between you two and myself. Thanks for participating once again. Let us know in the comments below. What do you think? Are you willing to pay $80 to $90 for new video games? Or why not join us in the indie train and get like 10 games for that price? Because every Friday we've got hidden indie gems, and I could probably almost guarantee you our whole list would not total $80 to $90.
But do we think that if AAA games can get away with charging more, that indies will eventually price hike as well?
I don't think so. The indie scene has always kind of been its own thing. The prices aren't really set in stone.
But
Each developer and publisher kind of just has a gut feeling and puts a price out there.
We've seen some $60 indies in the past, or at least like $50 indies.
I think we've gotten into like 40, 50, but I consider that more in the AA range, typically speaking.
Right, but wouldn't those take a hike as well?
We'll have to see, I suppose. What do you think on that, Mike?
A short hike?
I think we've seen it to some degree, like in the era of like the, what do they call it, like the Xbox Live Marketplace, like where a lot of indies like Braid and Splosion Man, where they kind of started. The typical price was kind of like $10 to $15. I would say with a huge amount of variability, the typical price for an indie now is probably like $20 to $25. Like I think we've slowly seen that average kind of go up. Could we see that average continue to go up? Sure, but this is, again, a situation of like, if they know what's good for them, they're going to be very careful about that, because a lot of indies struggle so much to sell, and you see all these indie studios closing down, and sometimes you're going to make a lot more revenue off a lower price point if more people get to play it. So they always have to be asking themselves that question. Will people actually pay this? Do we have the name recognition, the following to sell our game at $30 or whatever it is, or do we need to price it a little more conservatively?
Well, I think that's why you saw such an influx in the last many years with the Metroidvanias and the roguelites, because, okay, this is a genre that at least has some assurance of selling versus taking a complete risk. And so that did become a bit of a problem in the indie scene, where we just got so many of those games. It became we had a lot of commenters on our channel. They're like, oh man, another roguelite, another Metroidvania. Well, it does burn you out after a while.
And with the roguelikes, it's always a matter of, how much time do you have to sink into that to get your money's worth,
Yes.
So
Yeah, so everything kind of follows trends. I think maybe we're getting out of the roguelite trend a little bit here, and there's only so many of these games you can release before people have enough, but we'll see. It's going to be a really interesting few years for the indie gaming scene. All right, let's read some comments from last week. Of course, we were talking all about the Switch 2, whether we thought it would fail at a potentially higher price. Still no word out of Nintendo on what the price is going to be. The tariffs were frozen in every country but China, so my understanding is that this console is being manufactured in Vietnam, so they should be safe for now from the tariffs, but still nothing from Nintendo. We'll have to see how that plays out. But you had some thoughts. Let's start with a comment from Protein from the Sea. Everything is DOA. We just don't know it yet. What do you think of that stance, Silent Sons?
Well, that's dark.
Is gaming doomed? Are we going to a dark world where video games don't exist?
Suddenly I have a craving for salmon.
Comment from Real Strup 83. I don't think it will do as well as the Switch. The reason the Switch did well is it was affordable, and many families and people bought more than 2 consoles. Our house has 3 people who have Switches. We were planning to get 3 Switch 2s. We sometimes buy more than 1 copy of a game so we can all play at the same time. But those games are ridiculous. So if we're just going to play indie games, we can get a Steam Deck or something. A Switch is not our only console or option. Also, we just don't have as much disposable income as we used to, despite making more than ever. And we're not the only family feeling this way.
That is for sure. We ourselves have 2 Switches.
I have told people in our Discord, now is a great time to start considering a Steam Deck. You can get those affordable games. You're going to get a huge library really quick at a low cost. And we've had a lot of people come out and say, you know what? Screw the Switch 2. I think I'm just going to get a Steam Deck. It's cheaper, and the games are going to be cheaper, and there's going to be more games, too. Comment from Amy Gear 2217. I think it's too early to tell. Why can't we just wait and see what happens? Well, because speculation is fun, right, Silent Sons?
We can. I think that's what we're doing. We're all just waiting to see what happens.
Comment from Ran Mitimbro. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
Ran Mitimibro 7141. Let's go with that. What I can see happening is the Switch 2 selling like hotcakes, but people are going to consider buying more third parties and indies than Nintendo's own games. So, like Sony, we might see the company cracking down on PC ports to sell more copies. Not quite sure I understand that part, but I think I see your main point. I don't think I do either. So I think your main point is you think the system will sell pretty well, but people won't be purchasing Nintendo's games. I would disagree with that. I think people are mostly buying this for Nintendo's games. But what do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes, with him or me?
Yeah, if you're with you, if you're not buying Nintendo's games, you should buy a Steam Deck.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's just a no-brainer at that point. James Paul 6315. No, because unfortunately Nintendo fans will buy anything for any price as long as the mighty Nintendo decree it so. And you may very well be right there, James. Comment from Eldritch Eric 94. Now, whether people like it or not, it will still sell regardless.
That's kind of where I'm
You
at.
kind of feel that way, Silent Signs?
Yeah.
I'm in the category of
Yeah.
thinking it will sell fine, but not as good.
Yeah, well.
Agree.
Let's go to Skellor Bonor. Skellor
Wow.
Bonor. OR.
Skell or boner? Boner?
I mean, it would make
Skellor
sense to have a
boner?
boner if you're a skeleton, I guess. But
All
either way.
skeletons are boners. Changed my mind.
Skell Orbiner.
Okay. Capitalize the O, that would have been clearer, but that's fine. Even if I had infinite money, I don't know if I would get the newest Mario Kart because I would compare it to the Mario Kart DS and I would get sad. Would get the new exclusive FromSoft game, but morally I can't support Nintendo, even if I was a millionaire. So now why are you getting sad here? Do you have some sort of attachment to Mario Kart DS and everything after that game is not as good? Or...
Clearly.
I didn't know that was like the standout
Yeah.
Mario Kart game. It was good.
Yeah, I
from
don't
what
know.
recall, but-
I've never heard that either.
Didn't they include some of the Mario Kart DS tracks in the most recent Mario
I feel
Kart?
like, yeah, that's kind of my thinking too. I barely even got into playing that. I just bought that pass to play with our community like a couple months back.
And we played it like
Yeah,
three
we played
times.
it like 3 times, so I still have to play a lot of that one. There's a lot of great tracks on Mario Kart 8. Got it for like $45 years and years after it came out, so
Yes.
yeah, still brutal. Neat Scholar 4149. I get annoyed at everyone only talking about the price. I mean, yeah, I guess that's one factor to consider, but in my book, there's a ton of other issues that should be addressed before even bringing up the price, and mostly nobody's talking about any of them. Now, this comment goes on and on for a long time. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but he talks about, some of the Switch's past problems, poor performance, drift. Those are things people should be concerned about over the price. How do you feel about that?
I think those are all factors.
I mean-
right? I mean, those are all factors that
Yeah.
contribute to how much they should be able to charge for the price, though. It's all connected. It just, you could go in a loop. Like, oh, if it's not as powerful as a Switch or as a Steam Deck, then you shouldn't be able to charge the same price as a Steam Deck, right?
Yeah, it's worth noting that it's pretty well out there now that the Switch 2 is more or less a PlayStation 4 in terms of power, but it will have those AI features that will hopefully keep it a little bit more relevant than the Switch. Their idea is to not be running like total dog shit like a couple years in, like the Switch was. So we'll see about that. But PS4 level power, which is pretty equivalent to what I feel like Steam Deck does anyways. But
Yeah, I think that's about right. So, I mean, it could essentially be a Steam Deck with AI upscaling
That's what I'm
better
thinking,
than
yeah.
FSR. So that's pretty valuable. That's pretty good. I imagine indies should mostly run pretty well on it. I mean, Switch was pretty weak at this point, but a lot of indies are still 2D and, not really doing anything super demanding. So I wouldn't consider that as big a factor as it was for the Switch, but time will tell.
It really depends what type of games you're looking to play on it.
you'd be surprised. My brother
Yeah.
just did a review for us on his graphics card was like a 1060 or something like that. Really old graphics card. And he played, what was that, All in Abyss without issue. So, certain games, you can run them on a potato still. He's just got this dinged up old laptop and it was perfectly fine. All right, Chris Loston. When it comes to Nintendo and their fan base, nothing's off the table. Because when they say jump, the Kool-Aid crowd will say how high. But how many of the 150 million sold are that group? A lot of people will probably be just fine with the OG Switch. I do agree with that point. As $80 games and higher, depending on one's region, is effing ridiculous. I have no plans to buy one, but I didn't get the last one as I didn't see the value 8 years ago, and I see even less now. So depending on supply and demand, it'll probably fly off the shelves at the start, but after that, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Also agree with that point. And with this economy and no relief coming, especially in the US as our government currently, I'm not going to get into the politics stuff here, I don't see $70 and $80 games flying off the shelves. But who knows? You made some pretty decent points there, Chris Loston. I would agree with some of that. Nintendo fans, they will defend even some of the worst policies at times. So you're not wrong about that. There are people scrambling to find ways to justify Nintendo charging $80-$90. I've seen people try to justify them charging for that tutorial, just to tell you how bad it can be.
I think it's not completely fair to say, you know, when you tell Nintendo fans to jump, they'll say how high. I think that there is definitely a segment of loud and very passionate Nintendo only fans out there, but I would say probably most of the Switch's audience is just very casual gamers who don't play anything other than Mario and Mario Kart and Mario Party for the most part, maybe a Zelda, and a lot of them may not have even heard that Nintendo's planning to charge $80.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
A lot of them are casual enough they probably don't even hear this news, and when they hear that, they're probably going to be like, "Oh, my Switch works fine. I don't really need to get a new." I don't know. I think that is Nintendo's biggest risks. The fact that they really capture the casual audience very well, and if they're going to start getting greedy, they're going to lose a lot of those people. So
I think you're right.
But again, we will see.
When I think of Nintendo, I don't think of hardcore like gamers TM. You know, like I think of very like family friendly, accessible, casual titles.
How many people got the Switch for just the Animal Crossing? You know, just think of those numbers alone.
Yeah, and this not coming from a place of judgment, just like I think that audience is a lot of families and people who just wanted something to play on the go.
Yeah, and then you have these heated nerds online. That's a whole different.
A lot of those heated nerds are not the target audience of Nintendo, I feel like.
I agree. Yes.
You're going to have people who see the price and they're going to be like, "Oh, well, I'll just play Stardew Valley on my Switch for 1,500 more hours." Whatever. I know people who are like that. That's
absolutely, that exists.
No judgment to them at all. You know, it makes sense. Why would you?
There are people that just got an OG Switch like last year or this past Christmas. So
absolutely.
So a lot of people aren't going to give a shit. Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Butte 2013 has a beautiful comment for us. It's always been popular to bash Nintendo and other first-party companies. That being said, I really dislike the $80 to $90 games and the deliberate attempts to push games to digital only, though they aren't as bad as making you pay $100 to $150 extra dollars for a console that will play hard copy games like Sony did. The price for the Switch 2 is a good price for the hardware. I will get one, but since I'm mostly indie game, first-party game prices won't affect me too much. And I would just say get a Steam Deck at that point, but I digress. Maybe going to get a first-party game or 3 a year. The Switch 2 is also backwards compatible with most games, which will run better due to better console specs. I think Nintendo has its fans and the console will do good. Pre-orders in the UK have already sold out. Now, to be clear, the initial wave did, but they are in stock again in the UK, just to clear that up. But any reaction to this, Mike?
Nothing we haven't really said already, I guess, although I think Sony and Microsoft get plenty of criticism too.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I don't think it's especially popular to bash Nintendo over those others. I don't.
All right, comment from Ras Lion. Most of what I see is misinformation and engagement posts for clout. The gaming community is a tiny part of the consumer base for the console. The Switch will do fine.
I agree.
You agree with Ras Lion there?
The Switch will do fine.
It'll do fine. But the fact that the gaming community is a tiny part of the consumer base means it will do only fine and not amazingly.
Agreed. At Digital Necromancer, last comment here. I think it will sell millions as other failed consoles have, but once the fanboys have it and the influencers start reporting on it, the console will crash and burn.
Wait, what?
Did that not make sense to you?
I don't know.
No.
I don't.
So he thinks the console's going to sell a lot. He thinks the console's going to sell a lot. All right, let me translate this for you.
But then once there are influencers, it's going to do worse?
But once word gets out, he thinks it's going to initially sell really well. Once word gets out, the sales are going to go down because everyone's going to bash on it, and the console will crash and burn. But if it's sold well in the millions, then it hasn't crashed and burned.
Then it's already
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you for the comment, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Digital.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. But I don't know if I agree. But
hey, how about next week on the channel, everybody? We got upcoming indies. It should be live for everybody now. Patrons enjoy that 3 days early. Hidden Indie Gems Friday, a new spanking new list for you.
Spanking. Don't like that.
It's going to have some spanking going on that list.
Please don't.
You can't see me right now, but I'm doing a spanking motion.
He is doing a spanking motion, and I don't like it.
And there are an insane amount of reviews this coming week, to the point where I better get to work, Silent Sense.
Yeah, hurry up. Let's go.
So let's get
Clock's
out of here,
ticking.
everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Outside of the Echo Chamber. And as I do, ow, that was a good one. See ya.
Oh, God.